welcome to the Tony Hillerman Library feature of the Poets in the Library series. My name is Mary Oishi. I'm the Poet Laureate of Albuquerque, and we are just experiencing a whole range of poets, every age, every type, from slam to literary, and it's been a wonderful journey. I'm glad you're coming along on this journey with us to see the great wealth of poetry we have here in Albuquerque. Our featured poet today is Dodici Azpadu. Dodici Azpadu is a prize-winning, American-born Sicilian Arab poet. Throughout a long writing career, her work has been published in local, national, and international poetry journals, including Ad Astra and Contra a Cultura. Her recent publications include Wearing the Phantom Out and the chapbook Weathered. She has taught at UNM Honors College, CNM, and Osher Lifelong Learning Institute. She retired from teaching last year, but she continues to write. Please welcome Dodici Azpadu.
Thank you, Mary. I like to see poems on the page so I can appreciate where enjambment occurs and where words pivot forward and backward in a line. Consequently, I'll tend to read slowly so you can perhaps hear, sense where those changes are occurring. First poem is Dead Asleep. Skeletal fingers scratch sand grains, spill time on desert swirls, vague, familiar, digging touches bones. Scoop free, the rib cage remains upright, femur, fibula, tibia, stacked, sitting on haunches in a hole. Other forensic markings on the skull, fractures, shattering. Feeling her panicked pulse, juddering heart, an avalanche of stones hit the sweaty bed. This is Paper Trail. A man and woman claim me on other birth records. On the original watermarked paper, I come alone, a name foreign to me, sex assigned equally foreign. No tiny footprint stains other documents or adds indelible burdens I am given. Folding phrase certainty, words are fickle, tell outright lies, confuse, distort, hint. I parse them every day and will never have the last one. This is called Here and There. My mother stands deep enough in cement gray Coney Island surf to avoid waves breaking over her. Across the Atlantic on the tip of her eye, second-story shacks lean over narrow passageways, almost touch in the air, obliterating sunlight. She escapes the Arab quarter of Palermo as she runs, dragging poverty like a net covering her tracks. Out of my tourist way in Cairo, I trade Durrell's colonial quartet for Mahfouz's alleys of origin. In truth, I live more in written words than in cities anywhere. I bus to Alexandria for antiquity, walking arm in arm with a friend along the Mediterranean littoral, or in Montazah Park, our skin colors local, Other couples and groups observing Friday greet us as close to home as I will ever be. Next one is called Cloak. Back in the day, you put a man's suit jacket over a female body and felt cloaked in joyful danger. Eventually, laws requiring 3 pieces changed. Men's overcoats on women became a fashion choice, not a signature. Still, jackets do not make the man or the woman misfit. No wardrobe could correct without drastic alterations. No cover would shroud the hole buried in the body. And then my mother's advice. If you must speak, say American when asked nationality. Some countries of origin never mention. Every family has its hierarchy of ancestors, remembers half-truths, invents, omits, imagines, justifies. Some forgetting is forever. Some itches until bloodlines show. Unlearn a mother's first language, forbidden at home, and a father's adopted one. The daughter of this strategy grew up a foot in each grave. Now I am the truth I see fit. And then finally, on a lighter note, I'll end. This is called All Traces Gone. Stand at dusk in a prairie of 7-foot cord grass. Without breaking the stems, sweep a handful overhead and braid strands to a neighboring cluster. Turning as the center pole, continue sweeping and braiding in the 10 directions until you release the last handful and the grass billows above you. Shelter. And sit until light comes in the morning. Undo your handiwork without a trace of your being in the heart of invisibility. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dodici, for sharing your poetry with us. And now we're going to hear from Israel Mcmullen. He is the library paraprofessional, and I found out at the last library that means he is basically a Renaissance man with a giant S on his chest for Superman around the library who can do every single thing there is. He calls himself the Swiss Army knife of the library. Please welcome Israel Mcmullen.
Thank you, Mary. Hi, I'm Israel Mcmullen, library paraprofessional here at Tony Hillerman Branch Library. Our branch is located at 8205 Apache Northeast, 1 block southwest from the corner of Wyoming and Manal, behind the Hoffmantown Shopping Center. In 1951, when Sam Hoffman built the shopping center and the adjacent Hoffmantown neighborhood, Wyoming and Manal was the edge of Albuquerque. But by 1957, the Northeast Heights were growing rapidly, and the city decided to build a library branch in the area. The Tony Hillerman Branch Library has had many names over the years. When it opened in December of 1957, it was called the Prospect Park Branch Library. The Albuquerque Tribune said, quote, $150,000 worth of brick, tiles, and wood have been pleasantly combined into a modernistic utilitarian structure, end quote. 5 years later, the Albuquerque Rose Society began planting and tending a rose garden at the library to show that roses could successfully be grown in this climate. They continue to plant and care for the roses here and are always looking for new volunteers to assist in the rose garden's maintenance. The library and rose garden have been growing ever since. The garden was expanded to the east side of the library in 1974, and the library was renovated and significantly expanded in the 1980s. Construction took over a year to complete, and during that time, the library's collection was housed at the Wyoming Mall. When the library reopened in 1982, it was renamed the Wyoming Regional Library. In 1996, a new and improved rose garden was rededicated alongside the large sculpture titled Sharing the Joy of a New Discovery. The library was further remodeled in 2007 for its 50th anniversary with several art glass installations. Our public art collection also includes Flowering Yucca and Datura by Deborah Newberg, Sioux Pony by Art Machengo, and 3 prints by Ray Maceman entitled St. Anthony, St. Isidro Labrador, and St. Francis. An additional remodel is planned in the near future to create space for a community room. In 2008, the library was renamed again, this time in memory of local author Tony Hillerman. He was born in 1925 in Oklahoma and joined the military when he was 18 to serve in World War II. During his service, he was decorated with the Bronze and Silver Stars, as well as the Purple Heart. After the war, Tony Hillerman worked as a journalist before moving in 1966 with his family to Albuquerque, where he began writing his Leap Horn and Chi mystery novels. He lived within walking distance of this library, and his daughter, who still writes novels in the Leap Horn and Chi series, worked at this branch as a shelver when she was a teenager. The library is now over 16,000 square feet, with more than 74,000 items available for checkout, including books, DVDs, music CDs, magazines, cake pans, ukuleles, and birdwatching kits with binoculars. We also provide 20 computers for public use and Wi-Fi access extending into the library's parking lot. We offer many programs at events for all ages, including music and movement and story time for younger children, Read to the Dogs, Lego Club, and Thursday afternoon science and art projects for older children, Stitch Club, Mystery Book Club, Steampunk Crafts, and Coloring and Puzzle Club for adults, and Origami Adventures for all ages. In the summer, we have weekly activities for tweens and teens, as well as opportunities for teens to volunteer at our library. During the school year, we host special after-hours events for the neighborhood elementary schools. We hope that you will visit the Tony Hillerman Library and take part in one of our many excellent activities. And if you have time in late spring to early fall, please remember to check out the Albuquerque Rose Society's beautiful rose garden. Thank you.
Thank you, Israel. It's really interesting to learn about the wonderful libraries in Albuquerque. And now we're going to go indoors for the Community Poets segment of the Tony Hillerman Library feature. We have a great variety of community poets today, and I think you're going to really enjoy this. I know I'm looking forward to it. I've been looking forward to it ever since these poets signed up. The first poet is Joe Sorensen. Joe Sorensen's first book was Variety of Original Poems by Joe and Ellen N. Sorensen. He has since written a book called Exciting Life of Joe Sorensen. Just like the title implies, it is about his life. It contains poetry throughout the book. Please welcome Joe Sorensen.
Thank you, Mary, very much. It is great and marvelous to be here. I'm going to read 3 poems. They are all in Exciting Life of Joe Sorensen. And this first one is called Joseph, because my mother named me after Joseph in the Old Testament, because it was a shock, panic in a hospital being born blind. Here we go, Joseph. Joseph, Joseph, you were a slave. You went through the mill, but you climbed to the hill and reached the top and prospered. Now, this next one, I do have just a tiny bit of sight, not too much, real low vision. But anyway, so this poem called With Partial Sight. Oh my, I can see with glee. Yes, the color red, my favorite, so bright, bright, bright. The sun, the clouds, lightning, the white, white snow. Don't you know? Faces up close, like my wife Ellen and my mother who stepped into heaven. All kinds of flashlights. Look, 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 like a book. Big ones, little ones. Oh, these pencil ones, can we write? Oh, with sight. Lightning from thunderstorms. Oh, what a flash. And now, last but not least, this is my signature poem called Microphone. Oh, microphone, microphone, where are you? I can't find you. Where are you? Where are you? Oh, Joe, don't you know? I am your friend, the microphone. I have always been with you. Yes, yes, yes. You lived in Minnesota and at KUOM, University of Minnesota radio station. Yes, yes, I was there. And oh my, what fun to mark that down. Yes, yes, Joe. And then you stepped into the field of soul gospel music and KMOJ in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I was with you. And Joe, don't you know, when you're emceeing in cities all across the United States at gospel conventions, I was with you. And oh my, Joe, the people thought you were going to trip over the amplification and the chords because you cannot see. But I was not afraid. I have always been your friend. And then you stepped into poetry and in the writing field, and at Poetry Fixed and Free and other events. I have always been there with you. And the audio book in your own voice. Why, Joe, I was with you. And even now at this great event, Community Poetry, I am your great and marvelous friend, Microphone. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe. That is definitely a first. we have never had a poem to a microphone. All right, the next poet is Debbie James. Debbie James is a native New Mexican who has been writing poetry most of her life. She is currently working on her first novel. In June, she will fulfill a lifelong dream and attend a writer's retreat in Ireland. Aren't we all jealous? She recently read her poetry at the Cherry Hills Library. Please welcome Debbie James.
Thank you, Mary. I appreciate this chance to read this. I wrote this poem when my dad passed away, and then 10 years later, I read it at my mother's funeral. The dance floor made for two. More than half a century, they danced arm in arm. It was a normal sight for me. But as I grew, I came to see there was something more to this dance than you'd notice at first glance. He leads her to the dance floor as the band begins their set. No waiting on the sidelines. Usually the first one's on the floor, you can bet. It's quite a sight to witness this ballet that they practiced, shutting out the rest of the world when they twirl. Year after year, the same pleasure, even if the band was new. So happy on that dance floor made for two. Dancing to the fiddle music, swaying to and fro, hand on shoulder, hand on lip, hand on hip, loving smiles upon their lips. The music didn't matter, though Kirk and Flores was the best. Mama's moccasins made for easy sliding, Daddy's boots for smooth gliding. Their feet made all the right moves, but they danced with their hearts. Smiling and swaying, two-step waltz or swing. Their eyes danced to that love song. The band seemed to play just for them. In a room half empty or half full, on that dance floor made for two. When my dad asked me to dance, it was such a special treat. That those few steps with him meant so much. And when my turn was done, he would take her hand and the ritual would begin again. The rest of us would become wallflowers, fading from their view as they began to move on that dance floor made for two. And when arthritis slowed their feet, their lovers' dance never faltered. Their hearts still knew the beat. Song after song in a room half empty or completely full. Oh my, how the years just flew on that dance floor made for two. Heaven's streets are paved with gold, and there's palaces built for saints, I'm told. But on that great day when they're reunited, I picture a very different scene. As I imagine them together, rejoicing in a love renewed, they're smiling as they're gliding on that dance floor made for two.
Thank you, Debbie. We almost always have a poem about loss or about grief and about ancestors, basically. So thank you for that contribution today. Our next featured poet is Al Ogawa. Al Ogawa is a medical student and medical humanities fellow at the University of Rochester School of Medicine and Dentistry. Born and raised in New Mexico, they graduated Amherst College in 2018 with a BA in sociology. Their medical interests lie in family medicine and geriatrics. Their current work explores the experiences of LGBTQ+ older adults living in New Mexico during the COVID-19 pandemic and incorporates themes of community, healing, resilience, and grief. Their poetry and writing can be found in the International Journal of Disease Reversal and Prevention, along with University of Rochester's literary magazine, Murmur. Please welcome Al Ogawa.
Thank you so much, Mary. So I've got one poem for you all today, and it's been kind of years in the making. Uninaugural obituary. We pace in a sphere, a disrupted snow globe. Sunshine squeezes through the glass atmosphere. Infectious crowns replace the crystals and dance around us. We keep moving, hoping it won't settle and cement what is into what will be when we, my fellow American, we have to be different than this. Keep moving to shake the tears from eyes that fear to see. We must end this uncivil war. To end means to entertain the possibility of defeat, of stagnancy, of an inconclusive, what are the common objects of our love? He asks, I respond not with words, for those failed to describe, not enough obituaries to imbibe 400,000 alone, 80% seniors who are 15% of us, now 1 million who are still dear to us, in refrigerated trucks and autopsy tables, uncut for fear of shattering the bubble that contains, protects us from reading the obituaries, furiously scribbled by the act of losing. A hairpin, a hug, a brushing of hands, a morsel of a breath, 5/25/2020, 8 minutes, 46 seconds. The obituaries, unread but seen, spill onto the streets, grow legs, screaming even numbers in an odd timeline we built with white supremacy. So a man dying for help in crisis is hooded, suffocated under the weight of Rochester badges and knees as medics stand by. We March 23rd, 2021. Time flies 6 months. Our city cries until stop. The count drips from a split tongue. Count the vote. The lies build. An insurrection grumbles. An earthquake strong enough to shadow the windows of democracy's door. Police now prove they're capable of not killing people. When their white comrades plant bombs with zip ties, obituaries taste not of gunpowder this time. They waited time and hours, shielded by 10-year-olds. Years fly by in a moment, and 10 murdered while shopping for how? How can we end this uncivil war when what are the common objects of our love? He asks. I respond not with words, for these fail to describe the obituaries I write. Prescription slips, permission slips, authenticated with the seal of, with the act of, masked lips, beg for relief, to hold joy alongside grief. Thank you.
Oh, how timely. Yes, yes. Our hearts continue to break. Thank you so much, Al. I appreciate that. The next poet is Sandra Valley. Sandra Valley's work has appeared in Adobe Walls, Airplane Reading, Last Leaves, the Mas Tequila Review, the Malpais Review, and plumeforwriters.org. She's originally from Michigan, where she earned a BA in writing at Eastern Michigan University, briefly taught writing at Washtenaw Community College and in the community, and helped coordinate a monthly poetry reading series. Please welcome Sandra Valley.
Thank you, Mary, and thank you, all of you, for being here today. The poem I'm reading today is one that I wrote last year and updated just within the last week or so. And it's called Monsoon Winds Growl Dry Around My Home. Swallow lakes and funnel turquoise bears and spiny lizards to spit out over Treasure Island. I choke on grit and cactus spines and what remains when air swallows itself, a Jimson weed void. I water before sunrise, and 83 pigeons flock to sip their portion of each plant's water from the hose. Marigolds to rhubarb, lavender to thyme, pigeons follow. The apricot tree drinks water meant for chilly fields in Hatch. A mile west, mud puddles between sandbars, what we're calling a river. 105 degrees for 6 days straight. Heat-addled and sun-stroked, we mumble rain, rattle desiccated seeds in oil cans. Rainfall we pour from our ears. Even the moon burns red, and I choke on burnt grasses and smut. The sun hangs gray ash and cinders above this desert town where damp is a breaking crystal chant, lush, almost a curse. Each day at noon, a young boy speaks rain. He mutters magic from a book his dead pa wrote. Arid land, ranchers, and that boy despair. When bad guys burn the book before the rains can be summoned, Ben Cartwright rides up on his worthy steed. The heavens open, the crops are saved, and Ben takes the orphan child home to the Ponderosa. If only television could water trees. To reach the shed roof, I climb a tree of heaven, brittle by drought, it breaks under my curiosity, my need to ascend, to feel the weight of clouds, only smoke, risen off burning forests near Calf Canyon. Miles of blaze crest ridges burn through homes in Mora. In the Gila, the black fire explodes, slings a nuclear cloud above the ranges. Hot winds ford the desert, excavate green trinitite from McDonald's Ranch and gypsum from White Sands. With sand and smoke, a demon paints tomorrow above our fears. The demon's growl scores my skin. On the roof, I try to teach pigeons and a mourning dove, to pray for rain, to learn what I don't know myself. The vibrations of grace, how magic words form faith that makes us wait for nectar and ambrosia to bubble from the desert. The pigeons sing, they plead for rain, wetter than clouds pissing in the dust. Rain enough to pardon us. We need a flood to wash us off this roof, float us down the Rio Grande, deliver us to the flaming Gulf of Mexico.
Oh, thank you, Sandra. I think it's interesting how we went from the very personal to the national to right here to New Mexico. This has been a wonderful journey. Well, to the dance floor. So that's kind of, yeah, to the familial, and then to New Mexico, I should say. So this has been great. Thank you so much. The next poet is Laura Kelly. And Laura Kelly is from Tennessee originally. She is a retired, in her words, minor bureaucrat in the State Human Service Department, who also worked for a couple of years in a state psychiatric hospital in a wing for long-term patients who would be unable to care for themselves in the world outside. She has written as a hobby for many years and has a couple of novels in the drawer. She has self-published a couple of chapbooks of poetry, one of them with 2 short stories. She loves to bake bread and becomes interested in some odd subjects here and there just because. Please welcome Laura Kelly.
Okay, thank you for having me. I'm going to read 2 poems. One of them is the first is called The Infusion Room. First, the oncology nurse came for my wrist, but my veins were shy. The back of my hand, now wearing a bruise the size of my palm, couldn't hide from her persistent needle. First, salt swimming in water scrubs the hose. Then an aching cold drug enters through my hand and invades my forearm. 20 minutes. More swimming salt, then another drug. Repeat, repeat, repeat. Hours on the last one. The warriors slaughtering my white cells. A 5-hour shiver in a chair. Adults once permitted me to watch through lead glass darkly, the radiation playing the Sistine Chapel God, touching my mother playing Adam. She wanted me to understand that from some things no one can hide. She had to teach me that then, because for us there would be no later. In Cantor's house, there are many plush chairs. We watched scenes from each other's lives. I saw a woman attended by her psychopomp, a stuffed doll of an owl. A man whined, "Why me?" to a nurse who sat with him and listened as if no one in the history of the world had ever before uttered those words. We patients strut and fret our hours upon the stage. Some of us try to be charming or to be funny, my forte, my mechanism of defense. Operatic voices sing in my earbuds, Vivaldi, Farinelli, Mozart. Angels all, but my mother's voice is not of their company. She was too honest to be an angel. That was her gift. She taught me that of some terrible things, one must absolutely speak. And this next one is a short piece, very short. It's since these late years, I can no longer pretend that Ariel misheard, for hell is empty and all the devils are here. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Laura. I'm so glad you got back from your trip in time to participate. Yes. Oh, she was too honest to be an angel. Wow. Okay, our final poet, last but certainly not least, is Viola Morris. Viola Morris began writing poetry in her 80s while taking classes with today's featured poet, Dodici Azpadu. She was a member of Voices of the Valley, which met for many years at North Valley Senior Center and had poems published in their monthly newsletter. Also, as a member of that group, she read at several senior centers. Her work was published in Encore Prize Poems 2018 by the National Federation of State Poetry Societies. She is a current member of New Mexico State Poetry Society. It gives me great pleasure to welcome someone who started writing poetry in her 80s. So please welcome Viola Morris.
Thank you, Mary. The poem I'm reading, I'm referring to Nonna, and Nonna is the Italian name for grandmother. Legacy. I follow Nonna's blue round shape, a tail of apron ties, head bent, hand reaching to cut tall, wheat-colored plants with her sharp knife. She hands them back without turning, arms covered with ferny dust of pungent, peppery horsetail. I place them in the gunny sack I drag along the railroad track. We work until dusk drone of mosquitoes fills the air and the low sun makes silver ribbons of the steel. Boils the creosote-soaked ties to a stink. She'll hang them to dry in a large armoire with small muslin bags, tinctures, sticky syrups, salves, for the women, young and old, who come in the evening with a loaf of warm bread, sweet biscotti, almond cookies. They speak quietly, weep, hushed by Norna's crooning. I pretend to sleep, ponder words, the sugar, malocchio, 2 months, no blood, car, congestion. Some nights, Nonna leaves the bed we share, returns to talk of wrapped cords, turning babies, small women, no milk. I don't ask questions. Mom hates these greenhorn ways. She wants us to be Americans, refined. Shushes father's Italian outbursts, makes Jell-O with canned fruit cocktail, says just don't listen when they call you Dago and Wop. Do not tell the teacher. She washes the windows, keeps the lace curtains starched, loves my sister more because her skin is lighter and her hair is auburn and curls, tells everyone how smart I am, but wishes I wouldn't talk so much that people notice. Nonna cuts my hair on the full moon, smooths it with her old hands, and applies olive oil to the ends, tells me fabile, and we whisper in Italian, lying in our bed, where I make choices that last a lifetime. Thank you.
Oh, that was beautiful. What a way to finish the whole reading series today. Thank you so much, Viola. Thank you so much to each of the community poets today. I feel like I would like to do this all over again and listen to all different poems from these same poets. So thank you so much. And if you enjoy this series, there are many others on the city's website, the city's YouTube channel rather, and you can watch all of them from all of the libraries. We only have 2 more to go. So if you would like to be a poet, if you live in the Albuquerque or the East Mountains area, and you would like to include one of your poems in these readings, please contact me at ABQ Poet Laureate Program. It's on the screen. ABQ Poet Laureate Program at gmail.com. And now I'd just like to say thank you so much for watching. And we just proved today you're never too young and you're never too old to write poetry. My name is Mary Oishi. I'm the Poet Laureate of Albuquerque. My tenure will be ending at the end of June. So it's been a wonderful opportunity to represent Albuquerque's amazing poets and our fantastic library system. Have a great day.